Welcome to the very first episode of the Expired Popcorn Podcast. We are happy you are here. We talk about TV and film here, two different types, the fresh and the forgotten. And I am your host, Stone, and
I'm
we have another
Zach, your
host.
other host.
Yeah, we're excited for anyone that's listening. Today is going to be spicy, Zach. Do you know that?
Spicy, that's for sure.
A lot of spice. We are talking about the much, much anticipated Dune Part 2 from Denis Villeneuve. And then we're also going to talk the forgotten portion of our segment today is going to be talking about his last French film. He made 3 French films before this, but this is his last one that was nominated for Best International Film at the Oscars, and Incendie. Very underrated film. I'm still debating whether I like Dune Part 2 better or this one, to be honest. But yeah, excited to talk about that. You recently watched Dune for the very first time. Very
Recently
recently,
watched all of these for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you? And you also read up on the third one, right, Messiah?
I did. Yeah, I read up on what.
Okay, don't. Yeah, don't tell me about that.
No, I won't. But I did read up on what happens in Dune Messiah.
Okay, okay, we'll talk about it later. But what do you think about Dune?
I mean, I understand why people thought, I understand why people need to watch it multiple times. I had to watch a recap and explanation of what happened in Dune Part 1 to I watched a recap halfway through watching the movie, and then I understood everything that was happening. I just needed somebody to explain it to me, but I understand why people need to watch it multiple times. I really liked it. I thought it was it's beautifully made, and which is odd to say about a movie that's mostly sand and just tan. But yeah, beautifully made movie and very well thought out. There's not a wasted moment, and I love when there's not a wasted. I love when movies and directors don't waste time. I
think it's the source material too, because there's just the book is so dense. Not that neither of us have read the book.
No, I tried to read the book 5 years ago, and I made it maybe 100 pages in, and it's an 800-page book.
It's long. Yeah, I think I have it somewhere stashed. I think I bought it, and I don't know where it's at, but it's somewhere. But yeah, I think that if you watch Denis Villeneuve's other films, it really has led up to this because he came out with Arrival.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you see Arrival with Amy Adams.
No, I haven't, but
it's okay. It's good. I feel like that was his first step into sci-fi.
Yeah.
And then he made Blade Runner 2049.
Mm-hmm.
And also when it comes to Arrakis and the desert type planet, he made basically 2 films kind of that have a desert tone to them, in Incendie, which we're going to talk about. But then also Sicario is in Mexico. So I feel like he's just used to that landscape. But I feel like all of his films have been kind of leading up to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of people, it's funny. I get why, like you said, I get why people were really turned off to Dune Part 1. Well, the thing is, originally, and I'm looking at Letterboxd right now, and it doesn't say this, so this is interesting, but originally it wasn't called Dune Part 1. It was called Dune.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of had a suspicion before. It was a rumor, a pretty strong rumor that went around about the fact that it was going to be a Part 1. But even the people who didn't know it were probably very disappointed, especially they kind of fibbed it a little bit with Zendaya.
Yeah.
Hey, she's really going to be in the movie. And then
I mean, really quick on the Zendaya thing.
Okay.
Having never watched the movie until this week, when everybody was like, Zendaya's only in it for 7 minutes, I was after watching it, I'm guys, she's literally in it for 30 at least. She's definitely in it for at least 30 minutes, whether that's his visions or not. She's definitely in the last 20 minutes of the movie and maybe 10 minutes of visions. So I
think you're right, yeah, because it is a long movie.
Yeah, everyone being she's only in the last 7 minutes of the movie, and I distinctly remember people being mad that it was 7 minutes. Everybody said 7 minutes, and I was no, she's in it for 30. I will time her next time I watch this movie. She's in it a lot more than you think.
Yeah, a lot of people are not going to be disappointed in this second part, though, because you get a lot of Zendaya. Zendaya, we'll talk about that. But it's interesting because I do think that, I don't know if Dune Part 1 really holds up by itself. as in it definitely feels like half of a movie, especially when you watch. Spoilers for everyone. We're going to spoil Dune Part Two in this conversation. But when you start Dune Part Two, it's right after Dune Part One, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
But I made the comparison a lot to Across the Spider Verse.
Hmm.
Across the Spider Verse obviously wasn't called Part One, but it is a Part One. But what I liked about that movie, and I think it was holds up better as its own film, is because it encompasses Gwen's story. Like
Hmm.
it begins with Gwen, and then you have the final resolution between her and her father, and then her story is basically done, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I don't think you really have anything like that in Dune Part One. It just everything's great, like you said. All the filmmaking is top notch, but the biggest thing I could come up with was I don't know. You watched it before me. I'm not sure, or more recently than me. I'm not sure. Does the film open up with Zendaya? I think it opens up with him seeing Zendaya.
Yeah, I think
And it's
it's a, if I'm remembering it, it's a vision of Zendaya, and like it's like it was like the first promo stuff that we got for the movie too.
and ends with him meeting Zendaya. So
Yeah.
I guess that's the storyline. Is like what? How do we get from point A to point B, kind of thing?
Well, the movie actually ends with them bringing uh Jamis to the south, or trying to. He meets
Who's
Zend
John?
um
Is it the one he killed?
yeah.
Are you talking about that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The movie ends like he meets Zendaya in the last like 20 minutes of the movie, and then fights
Right.
Jarvis and
They had
all
the
of
fight.
that. So like there's
Yeah.
still a lot of plot left before or after he meets Zendaya.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess she's there at the end. Is kind of what I
She's
meant.
there. She doesn't have a
She's
lot of
there.
lines, but she's there.
Yeah. I think what holds it back too is Paul's way more interesting of a character in this part two than he is in part one. It's like you get hints of his visions and everything like that, but Paul, I mean, I think part two holds up by itself more than part one holding up by
Yeah.
itself.
Part one feels like there's not a main character. Part one feels like Paul is meant to be the main character, but like he doesn't really hold the title of main character because they're like the whole Atreides family storyline is happening. So it feels
Maybe
like
it's just a downfall of Atreides kind of thing in part
yeah,
one,
like the
like getting him to be the main character.
yeah, the downfall of his family is essentially the main character.
Right. Interesting. I didn't think about it like that. But yeah, part two though, it's funny. I bet that Denis Villeneuve, if he could have, would have wanted to do like a 5 or 6 hour movie.
Probably.
I
I
feel
mean,
like
it's basically 6 hours if you put the two of them together.
yeah, I've seen people ask for like IMAX to like do a special screening, putting them back to back. That would be something. A little intermission in between, and then watching them back to back.
Honestly, I felt like I needed an intermission in the middle of the second one. Not that it was bad, it was just long.
Yeah, I there is like a point in the sure there is like a point that like everything changes. It's
Yeah.
like as soon as Austin Butler's introduced, everything changes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. Part one is solid. A lot of people loved it, and part two got pushed back, which I was really depressed about. It was originally supposed to come out in October, I believe.
Did it get pushed back twice? I think October was its second, might have been its first
might
time
have.
being pushed back.
It might have, but I know that the last time it got pushed back was because of the strikes.
Yeah.
So I was very annoyed and sad. I'm glad everything worked out with the strikes, but I was very sad because I was very much looking forward to this film. But it's funny because I hear a lot of people saying, like, could you imagine if, because Oppenheimer, kind of boringly, but is going to sweep up like all the Oscars this year. But if Dune Part 2 came out last year, it would have been very like head to head kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like score, the cinematography, like all this stuff would have been really competing against each other kind of thing.
Yeah, and Zendaya, next year's Oscars, Zendaya will be up for two movies. Because I think Challengers is going to be a pretty big Oscar push, too.
Yeah. I don't know about her in this. I think we'll talk about the performances. I don't know. She's good. She is very good, but I don't know. Her character, I don't know. Hopefully, I believe she does pop up in Messiah, so we'll see what Messiah has for her.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
can
if
tell you a little bit about Messiah later if you want.
But yeah, it's funny that I mentioned Oppenheimer though, because that reminds me of like the press for this film.
Yeah.
So Christopher Nolan was going out and with Denis Villeneuve, and basically they were like patting each other on the back because there's like this mentality that they're the saviors of the theater experience, and they make huge, big films for the theater. And
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan was out there saying, "This is the next Empire Strikes Back, and next this is Lord of the Rings, like all this stuff." And I mean, it really hyped up the film a lot. I mean, I think that it lived up to it.
It did, for sure. It did.
But it's funny. The press for this movie, I am happy, and it was very smart that it got pushed. I'm not happy that it got pushed back, but it was smart that it got pushed back because I'm just curious how many people went to watch this movie because of the stars in it. I don't know if there's ever been a movie with like everyone is at the prime of their popularity when it comes to the young actors. And then spoiler, but even like having Anya Taylor-Joy in there is just wild to me that they got like the other young actor that they could have gotten kind of thing.
Yeah, it's wild to have Anya Taylor-Joy, Zendaya, and Florence Pugh all in the height of their careers.
Yeah.
All in the same movie. That was filmed forever ago, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that you never would have known that these three all at the same time would be as big as they are right now. And all just happened to be in the same movie.
Yeah, well, the one that stands out to me the most, the fact that this was filmed so long ago, is Austin Butler. Because Austin Butler was like, he still hasn't been in that many movies. Like, they're coming out.
Yeah.
Like, he's in, I know, Masters of the Air,
That show,
Apple Plus series, and then he has the Bike Riders.
Yeah, the Bike Riders comes out soon.
But I think that this was probably filmed around the same time that Elvis came out. And they didn't know how good Elvis, or how much it was going to, like, you know, his career was going to take off from it.
They didn't realize he would get Oscar buzz for it.
So they really got not lucky, but it's genius, the actors that are in this movie. And speaking of Florence Pugh and Anya Taylor-Joy, is the fact that, yeah, they're in this movie for such short a time, but they're going to be big, I'm assuming, in Messiah.
Yeah. There's my boyfriend was telling me that the deal that Denis Villeneuve made with Zendaya was, yeah, your character won't be that big in part one, but you'll be huge in part two. And he made that same deal with Florence Pugh for part two and potential part three, or Messiah.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's cool, and it's like you can prove it. Like he can Zendaya. Yeah, the Anya Taylor-Joy though, I was sad, but it's the worst kept secret ever. I don't know if did you know that she was in the film before you watched it or no?
No, I had no idea.
Oh, I'm jealous.
I had no idea. I didn't really look up anything about the movie before going into it, which is odd because I love spoilers. So going into a movie completely blind was odd.
So the first time you saw her, did you recognize it was her when she popped up on screen?
When I heard her voice, I was like, she sounds familiar. I was like, who is the voice of the baby?
Wow.
And then I saw her and I was like, wait a second, is that Anya Taylor-Joy? And I was like, oh, she's been the narrator the whole time.
That's cool. Yeah. And then it's funny because she's huge right now too, because they had the Furiosa trailer that played right before this. Like, I don't know, it's insane. But yeah, their press, it was hard to keep it under wraps though, because she went to a European premiere, I think. She showed up for the premiere, and like Variety posted, Anya Taylor-Joy's in this movie, she confirms it, and then it was like all over the internet. So unfortunately, if I didn't know that, that would have been really cool, but I'm glad that you got the surprise.
It was a nice surprise. I think the reason I recognized her voice was because of the Furiosa trailer right before.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, she's talking the whole time.
Yeah, makes sense.
So it was fresh on my mind.
Yeah, and then so you got the cast. I was thinking, what else? You had the C-3PO outfit that Zendaya wore that kind of took the internet by storm. I don't know if you saw that.
I did. That was cool. That was a nice outfit. Like, and then I remember seeing that, and I was like, "What is Timmy wearing?"
But then
I was like, "Timmy, get out of her shot."
Premiere, at another premiere, they had like matching outfits.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah,
that was pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie. But they're not even. I would say they're not even the biggest star from the press or for the movie. It's that bucket.
It is that bucket. That bucket. That bucket did more press on SNL than any other Dune Star has yet.
Hmm. Did you see the video I made on my TikTok about the I made a video a long time ago about best popcorn buckets of 2023.
I don't think I did.
It's okay, but it's funny because now I miss some because I came up with that idea off the top of my head, and it
Uh-huh.
actually did pretty well. And I was surprised because I feel like no one's done that because all these movies have unique buckets for their
Yeah.
their films. That is going to be probably number one. I don't think anything's beating that.
Well, you'll have to make it an annual thing and do one for 2024.
Yeah, I even saw a video today where Josh Brolin was on like late night talk show host, and they put stuff in it and they sealed it up, and he had to reach his hand in and kind of feel what it was and guess what it was, which is uncomfortable,
A
which is
worm.
why it made for good television. But
Was it worms or was it a
it wasn't. No,
snake?
no, no, no. It was like broccoli
Oh,
and a troll doll, like random stuff like that.
because honestly, watching part two, the one thing that like grossed me out was the scene where she's catching the baby worm in the little pit.
Oh, she catches it.
Yeah, that
Oh
grossed me
yeah,
out
yeah.
because it looks like a tapeworm, and that's just disgusting. I have no problem with the giant ones. It's the baby ones that grossed me out.
Yeah, they gave the water of
The
life.
water
No,
of life.
water of life looks like blue Gatorade. Speaking of which, all right, Dune Part Two. You said that you texted me and you said that you haven't had this reaction since Everything Everywhere All at Once. What do you mean by that?
When I left Everything Everywhere All at Once, so I have to clarify. When I left Everything Everywhere All at Once, I had two feelings. I had one of what the fuck did I just watch? And then one of this is master class cinema. This is everything that art is supposed to be. That's the feeling that I had leaving Dune Part 2 of this is everything that art is supposed to be. Some of the what the fuck did I just watch because I had to like think about it a lot, but mostly this is what cinema is supposed to be.
Yeah, I was genuinely like speechless. It's not the fact. It is what I just watched. Like I was like, I can't believe I kind of just watched that. But it was the fact that there's so much material, and
Yeah.
it's hard to think about the whole movie because there's every single part is very important.
Yeah.
And I love Everything Everywhere Once All at Once as well. So I kind of had a similar feeling as well. I think I went and watched Everything Everywhere 3 times in the theaters, and I just got done before we started recording this watching Dune for the second time, and it held up second time. Are you gonna go watch it a second time?
I might, but maybe not in theaters because it was a lot to sit. Not that it was like bad to sit through. It was just a lot, and I saw it so late. I saw it at 7. Like got to the theater at 7:30, so the movie started at like 7:45. So
Oof, yeah.
it was almost 11 o'clock by the time I was leaving the theater.
Did your theater was it packed?
Yeah, I had a full. I saw it in Dolby Atmos, so I had a full theater of like people were asking to switch seats because they couldn't get seats next to the people they came with.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it was. The opening night, I was very thankful that all I wanted was a poster. That's all I wanted because I was like they had the advanced fan screening, which on the 25th, which is where I saw it for the first time, and all I wanted was a poster. And thankfully, I got a poster. But I've been collecting posters for a little bit now, just like when they hand them out before a movie. And I think you saw my Driveway Dolls video I did. That's the nicest poster I've ever gotten. I brought a super nice poster for that one, and compared to the Dune Part Two, there's like it's like the films. Like the Driveway Doll poster is Dune Part Two, and then the Dune Part Two poster is Driveway Dolls. Like the quality,
Yeah.
like it is bigger. It's like actually like thick material, and I just wish the Dune Part Two or Two
It's
was like
sad
that.
when these. I guess they're using their money better, not using it
is
on
like
posters, but like you could invest a little bit more in the nicer merch.
and I got there a little bit late too, so I had to like roll it up, which I hated to do, but I didn't know where else to put it because the movie was about to start already. But yeah, Doom Part Two though, a lot happens in the movie. A lot happens.
It feels like two movies. Like honestly, Dune
Yeah.
could have been 3 movies. I don't really know what would have happened in part 1 if it was 3 movies, but it's so much content that it could have been 3.
I think you're right. I mean, like you said, at the end of Part One, there's like 20 minutes of Fremen, so you could do it like when Paul first meets the Fremen, and then the introduction of Fade Rotha, I think is his name, Austin Butler's character.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're not wrong. It could be 3 movies. I'm glad it's not though. That we don't have to wait longer for another movie,
We
even
don't
though
have to
because
wait another 3 years.
it's already gonna be 3 movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so basically, in this film, as probably a lot of people know, Paul Atreides is no longer a good guy. Kind of.
He's on the road to being an anti-hero.
He has drunk the water of life and also drunk what his mother has been telling everyone. Both of them, Lady Jessica and Paul Atreides, are such fascinating people. They
They
meet the
are.
Fremen. This movie's a lot about religion and faith and how people
Mhm.
get their power. And you have such a interesting dynamic with Zendaya. I think if you look at the Fremen, so everyone he meets the Fremen, and half of them will say think that he is their messiah, their savior that's coming to free them, which he eventually does.
Yeah, the
So
older southern ones. Yeah.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, it's kind of like even characteristic of today's times how like older generations blindly follow faith, but then younger individuals think more independently for themselves, which I thought was very interesting. But yeah, Zendaya is not on board, and I really like their relationship. I think at the beginning, let's speak at the beginning. They hooked me right away with the what are they called? Not the Emperor. I think it was the Harkonnen. They came down and they have that scene at the beginning where,
Oh, yeah.
and they have those black suits and they fly up the mountain.
Yeah.
That was a really good shot and just idea that kind of hooked me right away with it. Kind of something that I've never seen before in a film, I would say.
Yeah, I thought that the opening was a really good opening because it like you were saying that it opens like
Right, because the body's still there.
yeah,
His
right
body.
where it leaves off. It like kind of gives you a like fake out of it. Something has happened since because it's like it's not. It is right after Dune Part 1 ends, but like there's a little bit of a gap because Paul is like passed out in the sand, the body's still there, and now all of a sudden the Harkonnen are here. So you're like, what is going on? Because Paul's asleep, I guess, quote unquote,
Yeah.
having a vision in the sand.
I think that movie actually opens up with Florence Pugh talking and kind of gives us like a slow little.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
What's her character's name? Princess Arulin Corino.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna say Florence Pugh.
Florence
There's a
Pugh.
lot of people that have really long names.
Yep. We'll just
But
call them
you
their
get to see-
actors.
you get to see her and Christopher Walken together,
Yes.
the Emperor, right at the beginning. But yeah, you get that, and then Paul comes back, and there's people are skeptical because he killed Fremen, but then Javier Bardem is like, no, 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 it's cool, like it was a fair fight kind of thing.
Yeah. He has to
Which
convince
he's
them that it's
so
okay.
funny. He's hilarious. in the
He's so
movie.
funny about Paul being the chosen one.
He's like everything that Paul does. He's like, of course, that's what I don't know the Masa. I can't pronounce what they call it.
Mahdi. I don't remember what the full term is, but Mahdi is what they refer to him shortly as. But like
the Desert Mountain.
when Paul is like, I'm just a normal guy. I'm just like, this is like stuff that everyone can do, blah blah blah. And Javier Bardem's character is like, oh, he's so humble. He's Mahdi. Theater.
He was really funny.
Yeah, the theater just uproar of laughter every time Javier Bardem spoke.
Yeah, and what I like is that it didn't feel like they were writing jokes for him. It genuinely was just like natural that a character like this would say funny things like that, It didn't really take away from the movie because this is a very serious movie that luckily a little bit of, it
was nice to have that little bit of comic relief that also did not feel forced at all.
Yeah. And then, so you get Paul and Chani building their relationship, and she's hesitant, but then she sees good old Chalamet, thinks he looks really nice probably, but in her words, she says he's a good fighter. He's different. He's different than the other people they brought back, which I wonder, because she did say that. She said that they have brought in other people before, but she says that he's different. So I wonder what happened to those people. I wonder if they just cast him out in the desert because, I don't know, they didn't fit in with the Fremen.
I'm wondering if she was like, since like House Harkonnen had run Arrakis most of the time prior to the events of part one. I wonder if it was mostly like Harkonnen members that they brought in, and that's
Well,
why they're like so skeptical of
little did they know
strangers.
that little did they know they did the exact same thing.
Yeah, they brought in two and a half.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, we have that's like one of the beginning shots too. Is you see the fetus of Lady Jessica, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever watched 2001: A Space Odyssey,
Hmm.
but yeah, I watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's very. I know I saw Denis Villeneuve do his four favorites with Letterboxd, and he said that 2001 was one of his four favorites, and that makes sense because the idea of like showing a fetus on screen having like intellectual thoughts is very much from that movie.
Yeah. It is.
So when I saw that, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But so then you have the Harkonnens while this is going on, while Paul is building relationships with them. The Harkonnens, Dave Bautista is leading their crew, and he is failing, or he's not failing yet. Paul starts doing mischievous things with the Fremen
He's being
and causing
sabotaged a lot more than other Harkonnens had been.
very much so. And I think it was kind of supposed to be comedic because, I mean, he's not as menacing as Austin Butler at all. I don't know if that's just because I've seen Dave Bautista in more humorous roles, but
And
he's kind of like a goof, I would
yeah,
say.
and it felt like they in the trailers they tried to make Dave Bautista's character seem more menacing.
Yeah.
Not like more menacing than Austin Butler, but just like more menacing in general. And
Yeah.
then in the movie he's like kind of a joke.
Well, you know what makes me think of is the fact that I think the new Star Wars films get hated on for this is the fact that there's the idea of if you yell and say aggressive things that you're scary, and that's not necessarily the case. If you think about, I'm just thinking top of my head, the Joker, Darth Vader, they're not like aggressively loud and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Austin Butler, we'll get to him, but Austin Butler is the more menacing villain in this movie way more than his brother is, and that's just because he's more quiet. Like he seems more put together than a guy who's screaming and like beating people up. It's just not scary at all, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just Dave Bautista's character just seems out there, and Austin Butler's character is calculated.
More with him, yeah. Even though he has a weak spot for the old women, but
Yep.
Batista doesn't have all the women falling over him, but that's okay.
Understandable.
I like it is. I saw an interview that he beefed up for this movie. He was very muscular, Austin Butler.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, but yeah, I liked at the beginning how much time they took. Like it seemed slow, but on purpose because you got to know more about the Fremen, and then also I feel like they built up Johnny and Paul's relationship very slowly, very well.
I loved all the time that they spent with the Fremen.
Yeah.
I don't think all of it was necessary, but I think all of it pays off very well at the end of the movie.
Yeah. And the two things I think with the Fremen is that they highlighted was how they survive.
Mm-hmm.
Like with obviously the tears and the water and Javier Bardem brings Lady Jessica down to that whole pool, and this is like where they dispose of the bodies, kind of thing. But then also like the faith and just how it did a very good job of showing the fact that there are people that believe in Paul Atreides and his being the savior of them, but then also there's some that aren't. That's very important at the end because you really only have one person at the end who's all by herself, which is insane to think about. That Lady Jessica convinced everyone besides Chani to follow Paul, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah. It's by the end of the movie I really hated Lady Jessica.
Yeah. She's
Which
a very
is sad because I really liked her in part one.
Yeah, you get to I mean, just the Bene Gesserits,
Mm-hmm.
they're like the evil, I think.
I think they're the true evil of
Yeah.
the Dune franchise.
They're just trying to slowly take over the universe as quietly as they can, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we have Lady Jessica, and we find out that their Reverend Mother is dying, and supposedly the Savior's mother is supposed to become the Reverend Mother of the Fremen. So Javier Bardem says, "Hey, you are going to be our new Reverend Mother," and then she drinks the water of life, which we won't say what that is yet, but I think we already did.
Sort of.
But some blue Gatorade, and this is significant because this liquid allows her afterwards, almost kills her. But then Paul says, "Hey, she was trained for this. She is a Jesuit."
Transmutate the poison inside of her.
Which is so interesting to think about because I don't necessarily know if this is some rabbit trail, but I don't know if Paul really is a messiah, like if the prophecy is actually being fulfilled, or is the fact that just him being a man and being born of a Bene Gesserit like just gives him so much power that he can just be a messiah for people or have these ability kind of thing. I don't know. Like I feel like all that stuff would have happened anyway. I don't know. It's just something. I don't. He's obviously not a savior. Like he's not a great guy at the end of the movie, but just something that I think about often.
Just a point that's a little bit that like kind of gets into Messiah.
Messiah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just a little.
I bet it does. But yeah, so then she's able to speak with her child, which is Anya Taylor Joy.
Mm-hmm.
She has little secret conversations with her, and Anya Taylor Joy kind of seems like Lady Jessica 2.0. Like they get on the same page a lot. She convinces her that they need to convince the weak ones of the Fremen that
Yeah.
Paul is the savior.
Yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy being like the little devil on their shoulder basically was weird because she's like, you would think that the conversations with the baby would be inside her head, but like she's having these conversations out loud
She's really
in front
talking
of
to
everybody.
her.
Like she's literally talking to this fetus in front of everybody, and like people are looking at her like she's crazy, which she is.
She's a Reverend Mother. She's a Reverend
little
Mother, so she
crazy.
does. But so while this is happening, she's trying to convince the entire Fremen that Paul is the chosen one. Paul and Chani's relationship is sparking. Javier Bardem sends him off in the desert to prove that he's the chosen one because the chosen one can live or go across the desert, and that's when Chani kind of has an inkling towards him and helps him.
Mm-hmm.
It shows him the correct way to sandwalk. And then we have the
Which
scene where
really
they
quick about the sandwalking thing. I feel like the whole point of sandwalking is that there's no correct way because there's no rhythm or pattern to it because the worms are attracted to rhythmic sounds or rhythmic anything. So I feel like the whole point of sandwalking is that there shouldn't be a correct way. It should just be the most random walk.
I don't know. It looks better though. It looks cooler if you're not
It looks cooler. It looks like actually like yes, it does. But I'm just that was like a weird point that I kept thinking about as she was trying to teach him the quote unquote correct way to sandwalk. I did think it was funny that he tried to mansplain sandwalking to her, and she shut that down so fast.
He's like, actually, in this book that I found,
and she's like, I'm a Fremen.
I'm a little Fremen, but it's fine. Yeah, whatever. But then you have the really cool scene where they sabotage like a spice mining vehicle, and that also builds the relationship. Paul kind of like sacrifices himself so that she can blow up that ship. He kind of runs, the shields go down once they're firing at him, and she's able to blow it up. And right after that, you get the scene where everyone's like, love Paul, right? Man, he did so good on this mission kind of thing, and they give him his names. And I just think there's so many scenes that they could have rushed it, but there's probably like 2 or 3 or 4 scenes where you can just see their relationship naturally building up, and I thought it was like handled really well.
I agree. I think that the story that we got to see of their relationship growing was very well done, and like again really pays off in the end, and is like very worth it to have invested that much time in building that up.
Yeah, and then Lady Jessica just books it. Oh, Paul starts getting visions about the South.
Yeah.
And he sees somebody, and he knows that if he goes to the South, that millions of people will die. I believe a famine. I believe they're starving to death.
Mm-hmm. And nuclear.
And yeah, he starts getting these visions of that. So that's periodically coming. I think this is right after him and Chani start building the relationship together. But then you have Batista, who's still sucking at his job. I know he comes out and he tries to face them like head on, and it doesn't end well. He screws over like all of his men, and he barely gets out of there alive himself,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Uh, which I thought that scene was really good. You get like all these Fremen that are like popping out of nowhere, and they're taking on each other one by one, kind of thing, or taking them, picking them off one by one. But they Batista goes back, Reverend Mother leaves, and then we have, I believe, Austin Butler comes into play.
Yeah, I think that's like right after Dave Bautista's character is almost killed is
Yeah.
when Austin Butler's first introduced because Dave Bautista failed so badly that it's time to replace him.
Yes, and you have a very interesting scene, I remember, where you have, again, Florence Pugh's character, and you find
Mm-hmm.
out that she is, in fact, a Bene Gesserit. And she speaks to the Bene Gesserit, and she mentions possibly that Paul Atreides might be alive because they start hearing about this savior that is on Arrakis, and the Reverend Mother of the Bene Gesserit shuts that down immediately. She doesn't want to talk about that. But then she says we have another one possibly that's an
We
option.
have another
And
candidate.
Ryan Florence Pugh says the line, I think that was in all the trailers, where she goes, "He's psychotic, but they want him because they can control him,"
Yep, because
which
he's
they
easy
couldn't
to
do with Paul.
control.
Yeah,
Much easier to
and
control than Paul.
very much so. So then we have the scene where I think, in my opinion, might have been kind of the coolest scene in the movie, where it is black and white. You can see the Harkonnen planet, and it is black and white, but not all the time. It's only, I think it's their black sun, is what it's called. They have a black sun that makes basically everything like not I guess infrared kind of, because you can tell there's one scene where the Baron is coming out on his wheelchair because he's messed up from get Oscar Isaac in the first film, but he's in color, and then as his wheelchair thing floats forward and he gets hit by that sun, he turns black and white.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very interesting, but you get the more information about how these gladiator fights are done. What's his name? Fade Rothan or
Mm-hmm.
Rotha? Fade
Yeah.
Rotha. Tough names.
Tough names. I'm gonna refer to them by their actor names.
That's a lot easier, yeah. Stilgar. That's not Javier Bardem. Stilgar. That's not bad.
Stilgar's not hard.
He's like the one.
I
He's
feel
like the
like the
one.
Fremen don't really have that hard of names. It's literally everybody else.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Because like
That's
Chani
why I
is
like
easy.
That's why we like the Fremen even more.
Even their name as like the group of people, the Fremen, is so much easier than Atreides or Harkonnen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Fremen just have lots of things going for them. But you find out that even though Austin Butler's kind of a menace and intimidating, that he's kind of the gladiator fights are really all for show because they're drugging the people that he's fighting. But then the Baron kind of tests him a little bit and doesn't drug one of the contestants. And that one, after he kills the other two, put up a little bit of a fight, and he finally defeats them. What I like about the scene, and same thing happened in part one though, was there's like a weird those black creature human things that are in the
Yeah,
background.
they look like
The same.
devil imp things.
Yeah, very much. I liked it because the same thing happened in like part one. There was like this spider human thing that was there for like a split second. I don't know if you remember that, but there was like a creature. And I think the Reverend Mother said, "Get that thing out of here," and it just left. And it was only there for a split second. It wasn't explained. It probably is in the
Hmm.
book, but I just think it's funny how there's not really like really aliens in in this world. But those are like the closest thing you kind of get to it, and they're not really explained. I just think that's very funny and interesting at the same time.
It's a nice little Easter egg. I don't remember the spider thing, but
Yeah, it's only there for a second.
I
Yeah,
did like the devil imp things. They
Devil
reminded
thing.
me of like court jesters, but like demon like mon. I'm trying to think of like what show or movie I saw them in, but that's just what they reminded me of. I'm probably thinking of something like Digimon, but that's what they remind
They
me of.
Digimon. It looks like they're there to like save Austin Butler just in case anything
Yeah.
happens to him. And I thought, I don't know why, but I think this is like the best scene for him. And I just love when he's yelling at them. Like it seems genuine. Let's say his voice. That guy knows how to alter his voice. I will tell you what.
He does. Yeah, because I mean, he was stuck in that Elvis accent for 3 years.
And it looks like like Stellan Skarsgård, so the Baron. It
Uh-huh.
looks like he's imitating his voice a little bit. Like he sounds very similar, just like a youthful
Yeah.
version. But then Butler gets very, very upset, and he goes to him and says, "You were trying to sabotage me, have me killed. I should kill you." And Baron's like, "Hey, man, chill. It's a gift. I'm gonna give you Arrakis." And that piques Fade Rotha's interest. And he also says he's going to make him emperor. How is he going to make him emperor? It's because they got blackmailed. Emperor's got blackmailed because he killed House Atreides.
Yeah. And had Harkonnen do it.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously this piques Fade Rotha's interest. And I will say one thing that I think is a little bit of a flaw in the movie that you're just supposed to overlook is so after they oh, I don't know if I should make this joke or not. Did you
Make the
like the
joke.
did you like the LGBTQ inclusion in the film?
What?
Yeah, I thought that's what I thought. I thought it would be funny. Where Austin Butler and Stellan Skarsgård kiss.
Oh, oh my God.
Yeah,
I thought that was weird. I was like, okay, incest. Like,
yeah. My wife thought it was like that was her favorite scene. I looked over at her. She was like, "Oh man."
and it wasn't even just one. Like, they went in for it twice.
No. Yeah, Fade Roth. Austin Butler wanted to go in twice. He's really feeling it with
He was.
Stellan
He was
Skarsgård.
like, Stellan Skarsgård, daddy.
Yeah, that's really funny. I had a good time looking at my wife. I knew that was coming because this was my second time watching it. So she was reacting. She reacted more to that than Zendaya and Timothy Chalamet's kiss. I'll tell you that. But they so one flaw that I saw in the movie that's like you kind of supposed to overlook it is the fact as soon as Fade Rotha is put in charge, he automatically knows where they're hiding and just
Yeah,
blows it up.
just straight to it. But okay. I guess it's because, like, where else would they be type
I don't
of
know.
thing. I thought
I
the
don't know.
same
It's
thing. I was like, how did he know to go straight there? Like, this is a big ass planet with lots of sand.
Yeah, and there's just a lot to put in the movie, so maybe that was originally in the script. I don't know, but then right before that, I remember is when we get to see Josh Brolin again. Josh Brolin comes back. He's just kind of just been chilling on the planet a little bit, and he also introduces something that I think is a real help in the plot. I think I asked someone. I think this was mentioned just a little bit in the like one split second. It was mentioned in the part one, but the fact that they have nukes.
It was also like so random. I was
Yeah.
like,
Like I said, I think maybe possibly they mentioned it the first, but they didn't highlight it that much.
no, it was like brushed over if at all mentioned. And when he mentioned the nukes, and then there's like every house has a set of nukes and blah blah blah, and then they were like they made like the number of nukes seem like pretty significant, and then it's just like they just happen to have a random number of 93 or something like that.
Yeah. You know what scene we forgot about that I forgot to mention was the sandworm riding scene. That was very
Yeah.
good. That was very good. I think it was impressive because even everyone who watched the first movie, even maybe the trailers too, yeah, knew that that was going to scene that was going to be in this film.
Hmm.
Like, okay, you're going to see Paul ride the worm, but I still think it was really impressive, really hella impressive. Just the different angles they get because they shot this in the Middle East, I know, and just the shots that they were able to, different angles that they were able to get far away from, I don't know if any of it was CGI. I don't think so. It was just super impressive and just super cool that they're shooting on location like this.
Yeah. On the topic of the
But
sandworms,
yeah,
I understand how a single person gets on the sandworms. But when they wrote them like trains, I was really confused because it seems like it's really difficult to get on a sandworm to begin with. So, how do you get like hundreds of people on a sandworm and then also carry the Reverend Mother in a like a little hut thing onto the sandworm? That was
yeah,
something
maybe
that
it's in the book. I don't know.
maybe, and if it is, somebody let us know.
I'll say yeah. Anytime there's a plot element that we don't understand, it has to be in the book.
I mean, it has to be in the book because 800
The only
something
thing
pages.
The only thing I can think of off the top of my head is the fact that Paul's worm was the
The
giant one,
grandfather
and
worm, yeah.
right, maybe it's easier to ride smaller worms and get
Maybe.
lots of people on them. I don't know, but I thought that was it was really intense, and I mean, we can just say it right now. But Hans Zimmer's score, the score is great throughout the entire movie. It's like really, sometimes it's maybe a little bit too loud when they're speaking dialogue. Can't really hear them.
Yeah,
Um,
especially in Dolby Atmos.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah, I only watched it.
It was great to watch in Dolby Atmos because you hear everything, you see everything. But when the score is really loud, you only hear the score.
Yeah, yeah, it's really good though. But a combination of that, but it really like put it like looked hard. It looked really hard to ride the worm.
Yeah,
Like
it
there's
didn't
these
seem
scenes
like
where
it
you,
was just this like cool CGI thing that they threw in there just to throw in there. Like it seemed like a lot of times in movies and stuff when stuff like that happens, it just seems like a cool thing, like fan servicey almost. But this felt like, one, obviously it serves a purpose because he, like, the Messiah can ride the grandfather worm, is part of the prophecy or whatever. But then two, it like really shows you that Paul is working to gain the trust of the Fremen and like working to be a leader, even though he like repeatedly doesn't want to be the leader.
yeah. You know what's crazy to think about is I saw someone mention it, but the fact that this, I can't remember the top of my head, but let's say this has the same budget as like some big blockbuster movies, like, you know, obviously superhero movies, but even, you know, Fast and Furious and stuff like that. The fact that it just looks somehow just so much better.
Yeah, it's
And I think,
real.
yeah, it looks real. And I think it has a lot to do with honestly the source material. I feel like the fact that you already know what you're going to create for the longest time helps out rather than just coming up, you know, the script's been there for a long time, so they've had time to prepare, kind of a thing. But then the fact that I've seen this too is the fact that visual effects now look too perfect, like everything just, and that's just not how life looks. And the fact that you have this rugged desert planet and everything looks used and worn down, just it makes it automatically look shit
Yeah.
legit kind of thing. But yeah, we got Paul riding the worm, successfully rides the worm. And I just actually, before we got on talking about this, I called my brother because my brother just watched it. He's a big movie fan. What I found very funny, I'm almost 100% sure that after they ride the worm is when they have sex. I thought that was very funny. That is the next time I believe you see Paul and Shawnee, and I just thought that, you know, that really got him going. Like that was it. Watching him do that, like this is my guy kind of thing.
Yeah, that is funny. I didn't realize that, but yeah. I mean, what can you say? So
Really,
they
really
ride
set
the
the mood. Yeah, I
grandfather.
mean, he might not be my savior, but he is tonight, kind of thing.
I
You
mean,
know.
I wouldn't give it up to Timothy Chalamet because, like, the rumors of him giving all of NYU chlamydia, but
Well, I guess Kylie Jenner doesn't care, so.
yeah. But I mean, if I saw somebody riding a grandfather worm, I'd probably give it up.
So, yeah, I bet Stilgar probably wanted to.
Probably. I
Javier
think
Bardem.
Stilgard wanted to give it up to him
Right away.
The minute he realized Paul was a savior. Stilgard was so far up his ass.
Yeah, that's so funny. Okay, so then yeah, they finally Paul doesn't want to go south, so we're back to where, you know, Feyd-Rautha destroyed their base. Somehow he found it, and then they go south, and Paul gets these visions. He touches the sand, and basically the sand just tells him, drink the water, drink the water, drink the water." And the Reverend Mother went there in the first place to recruit even more people because I think the South is more gullible in a way. Not gullible, but
They're
more
more
trust.
in, they're more inclined to be faithful and believe.
Yeah. So she kind of prepared them all for his arrival,
Yeah.
and then he branches off. He's originally going with Chani and with all the people on the worms. He branches off and he goes to the secret room by himself and drinks it. And this is where we see Anya Taylor Joy. Um, and I'm not really sure what happens here. I guess he sees a little bit of the future because obviously the water is there. I remember there's all these flashes of people's faces too. So I think that's the point of the moment showing you that Paul is able to read all these people's thoughts.
Yeah.
And he's able to know them. But yeah, we get the scene with his sister, Anya Taylor Joy, who I think she just says, "I'm here, Paul." I can't remember what she says, but not that
She's
significant.
not as evil when you see Anya Taylor-Joy. Like she's not being this
She's
like
not as evil as Lady Jessica. I'll tell you that. She
no, but
seems like
like
like she actually cares about Paul.
as the fetus, she's like
Oh yeah,
the little devil, but like as
yeah,
Anya Taylor-Joy, she is like, I care about you, Paul. Like, do what you think is right, type of
yeah.
thing.
That
Which
yeah.
is
She does
kind of an
seem like way.
odd change.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So it'll be interesting to see how her character plays out in Messiah. But he drinks the juice. Chani gets mad, slaps him, and that's kind of where the relationship just starts to go downhill, kind of a thing where he cares more. He almost died and cared more about fulfilling the prophecy than did Chani, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
she slaps him. One thing my brother always also pointed out that was interesting is I don't know where. So when she comes in to see Paul after he's drinking it, she comes in on one of those I think they're called ornithopters.
Yeah, the Thopper.
That
I have no idea where she got it.
I can't think of a logical because it's the South, so they all rode worms there. They don't. It's impossible to get there. So I honestly don't think there's a reasonable explanation of where she got that.
No, the only thing that I could think of is somehow Gurney had it.
maybe,
But
maybe I
like,
don't know.
where would he have gotten it? How would he have gotten it through the storm?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, yeah, it's we won't think about it that much. But yeah, she gets
It's in
mad,
the book.
and then we have what was that?
I said it's in the book. Just don't
It's
think
in the
about
book.
it.
It's
It's
in
in
the
the
book.
book.
It's in the book. Then she gets mad, but then we have basically Paul is taking on his Messiah persona now. Um, Reads everyone's mind, gives all these speeches. Everyone's backing him up, and then he sends a letter to the emperor and says basically, "Come on down here. I want to face you," kind of a thing. Emperor comes down, and I had a little issue of this, but I talked with some of my friends about it. I was a little confused of why the emperor kind of stupidly like puts all of his troops like in the middle of the sand, because the thought I had was, okay, there's these Fremen who have worms, and they have worms, and they're gonna come and get you. Like, why would you put yourself in the middle of sand? But I know it is kind of talked about a little bit throughout the two films, the fact that they didn't know that the Fremen had this many people.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
lot more
true.
people than they thought. So I understand that reasoning then. But yeah, they come in, really F everyone up. Chani's there with them. Florence Pugh, everyone's there. De Bautista, everyone's there. Emperor's real pissed at the Baron because I think that Paul has been hiding out in the south, and I
Yeah,
believe the Emperor. Why haven't you looked at the south? He goes, "Well, my lord, it's uninhabitable." And he's like, "Well, really?" And then he
clearly
just kind of
not.
like, yeah. So he kind of like almost kills him, kind of thing. Great visual effects, war, good stuff there. Great score happening. Worms come in, nukes, everything's going on. Tons of there's a really great. I love one takes, and I don't know if it's Zendaya the entire time. It kind of looks like her the entire time, but I think there's a minute or two choreographed fight where Zendaya's actually fighting people in choreography, hand to hand combat, or like with knives and stuff like that. And then you turn around, and you see her face. So I would maybe like see the behind the scenes and see if that's actually her, and they choreograph that entire thing, because one shots and that camera doesn't cut. Beautiful stuff
Yeah,
happens.
that's one thing I really liked about the movie is the fight choreography.
Yes.
In the first and the second one, like the fight choreography is just like top. They trained for this.
Right. And something very significant that we forgot about is when the Baron sees the Emperor come, right? He flies overhead. He's like, why is he here? He calls the other colonies, or not colonies, what are they
Yeah,
called?
the other houses.
Houses, yes. And basically says, hey, stuff's about to go wrong on Arrakis. Get here. But then Paul kills the Baron, uh, basically kidnaps everyone in the group. Um, and that's it. I think when it comes to that, and then they get word he comes out into this little arena type area, a small arena, and they see that all the houses have come down now, and
Mhm.
this is the time to try as best as they can to make Paul emperor. And he realizes what he's going to do, so he says that line to Chani where he says, "I will love you as long as I breathe," which is, I'm not gonna lie, that's a hard line. I wonder if that's in the book. That's a pretty good line.
If it's
He's kind of
not, if the book and the movie have like a different take on the relationship between Chani and Paul at the end of the book, like the end of Dune, then Dune Messiah makes no sense.
wait. What do you mean?
Do you want me to tell you?
No, that's okay. That's okay. So,
Like the relationship between Paul and Chani at the end of the movie doesn't add up for how stuff plays out in Dune Messiah.
okay, got it. Sounds good. I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about it. But yeah, so he like BS's and he says the whole because he realizes what he's about to do. He literally says, "I love you as long as I breathe," and then says, "Hey, let me marry your daughter here." So
Right in front of her.
Sean is right in front of her. I mean, he has to do it, I guess, because he's kind of only cares about being emperor now, and he knows that his last ploy is if I'm emperor, then these houses will listen to me. And that's when the emperor chooses Fade Ratha as his fighter. For combat. This is like what you're saying. The choreography here and the fight's great
Yeah.
between the two of them. And what I really like is there's zero music. It's just
It's just the fight, just the grunt.
hand combat, hearing them hit each other, block each other.
Yep.
I do remember because there's so many visions that Paul has. I do remember that there, my second rewatch, I noticed this that there is a vision that he has where he sees Phaedratha's sword in him. So he knew that that would have to go in him in order to kill Phaedratha,
I
which is
did
interesting.
not catch that, but
Yeah, it's like I said, I didn't catch it until my second time, so he knew that that was going to happen. He does get stabbed twice.
he does get stabbed
And
twice, but
he
wins.
kind of wears it off. Yeah, he kind of is walking too well for in my opinion afterwards, but whatever. So yeah, he kills Austin Butler, and then Emperor kisses his ring and says, "You're Emperor. Here you go." But then the houses are like,
no.
"F you. No, we don't
We
care."
refuse.
Yeah, so then they take refuge and they all fly away, except Zendaya, who is the only one who still does not believe and is kind of pissed at Paul. She's all by herself, and she calls
Yeah.
a worm.
Calls up her worm.
Calls up her worm, and that's it. That's Dune Part Two. The
Yep.
whole recap.
Whole recap.
What is your favorite scene? Which one was your favorite scene?
I really like the fight that Zendaya has toward the end, where like you were talking the one shot.
Oh, the one shot is really good.
And I
Yeah.
really like the fight scene between Austin Butler and Timothy Chalamet.
I mean, good pick. There's so many scenes that you could pick. I mean, I do like. Say two mine is like I like the gladiator scene. I really do like that. I think the CGI looks a little bit iffy when it comes to the crowd, to be honest. But then I also really like where it's that dimly lit room, and this is when like he's having his first the chosen one speech in front of all those people, and then he tells that guy about his grandmother and your grandmother died. Ooh, and they have a name drop, which I didn't know that was coming. It's like 9 moons ago, this planet was called something else. Dune. And then everyone's like, oh. I was like, I did the same thing when I watched it the first time. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Cool.
The minute I heard him say 9 moons ago this had another name, I was like, oh, Dune, that makes sense.
Like you knew Dune was coming or no?
I knew Dune was coming.
Oh,
when he said 9 moons ago, I was like, oh, this is where they're gonna do the name drop.
Oh man, well, I'm glad I'm not as smart as you.
I just like it's just like those little like I do not have the language or vocabulary to speak about cinema as well as other people, but like it's like little things like that I'll pick up on that I'm like, ah, yes. Yeah. But my like 2 semesters of film classes have paid off.
You got it. Oh gosh, yeah, that was cool. I didn't know that it was called Dune. I thought it was just called for sand dunes. I didn't really. That's why I think Dune's cooler than Arrakis. I'll say, oh, I don't know. Arrakis fits. Dune is the difficult name, or Dune is the easy name that we were talking about. So that's like the
Fremen name.
Yeah,
because everything with them is simple.
And then all these political people got it, and then they called it Arrakis.
Ugh. And it's like. Why? Why is it called Arrakis? That makes it sound like there's spiders everywhere. And the planet is inhabited by giant worms.
Makes no sense. This is what happens when politics get involved.
Yep.
Well, yeah, it's just I think the whole idea of Dune is just blind faith and what you can manipulate faith to get power and the different ways that you can gain power.
Yeah.
Like I said, we haven't even talked about it, but there's a whole still. There's a whole. They've got pieces everywhere when it comes to the Bene Gesserit. I mean, you have Lady Jessica, who it looks like she might be staying on Arrakis. If I remember correctly, there's a scene of her and she's looking at all the
Yeah,
ships
I think
leaving.
she's staying on Arrakis. I think
Yeah,
that
but
there
then
are still Fremen on Arrakis. I don't think it's just Chani, but
right,
I think like the majority of them followed Paul.
yeah, and then you have Florence Pugh character, which will come really, is marrying Paul Atreides. Um, she's also a Bene Gesserit, so
Yeah.
Bene Gesserit, they're always gonna be there when it comes to the Dune world.
Yeah.
The actress though, the Charlotte Rampling, I haven't seen her in too much. I believe she's in. I thought she was in a lot of horror movies, but she's really good. Even though her face is covered in her for like basically the entire two films together. The head mother of the Reverend Mother of the Bene Gesserits.
Hmm.
But then you have the really interesting plot. I guess it still can be in Messiah, where Phaedratha and Lady Margaret, she sleeps with him,
Oh yeah,
and
and
she's
she's
pregnant
pregnant
with his
now
child.
with a daughter.
Yes.
Which to me,
Uh,
so with that, I guess they're a little more progressive in this, where the bloodline can be continued through a female and not a male, I guess.
yeah. Oh, interesting. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because they only want females.
Yeah, they only want females, but then she was like, it's okay, bloodline secured. And I'm like, well, wait, is it? Because, I mean, like, biologically, yeah, of course, but
Right.
politically, is it?
Yeah, interesting. I didn't think about that. Also, one thing we forgot about that's like a big like plot twist of the movie was the fact that after Paul drinks the juice and after his mother drinks the juice, they both realize that she is in fact the Baron's child.
Yeah, that
And
she's
they're
a Harkonnen, so he's a half Harkonnen, half Atreides.
yeah, which makes sense because they're very you know uh, aggressive when it comes to what they want.
My boyfriend brought up a good point about Paul being an Atreides and a Harkonnen and being the Messiah to the Fremen. That the reason he is a much clearer choice and like so much better at being the Messiah than Phaedratha would have been, or like why Paul is the Messiah of prophecy, is because he is of the three essentially rulers of Arrakis, because he's
With the Fremen being one.
yeah, so like he's not necessarily native born, but he's joined in with the natives. um he's an Atreides, and then he's half Harkonnen. So like
Interesting.
I was like, oh, that's a really good point actually, because like they did bring up the point that Phaedratha is another candidate for the Messiah, but clearly he's not good enough.
I don't think he was a candidate for the Messiah. I think, oh, I guess possibly because that's what the Bene Gesserit wanted. They just wanted someone to allow. That's because they're the ones that started the rumor
Yeah,
about the
they're the
Messiah.
ones who started
They want
the
all the Fremen on their side,
yeah, they wanted to control the spice, and the only way to control the spice is by controlling the Fremen.
right? But I think that plan went away. I guess because not right away because I guess they didn't know that Paul was alive, but they don't like Paul because they can't control Paul.
Yeah, they just wanted to be able
So
to control whoever the Messiah was going to be.
yeah, I guess they don't know Fremen that well because I definitely don't think they were going to follow
They were
Favoratha.
never going to follow him. They hate the Harkonnens. They
Yeah, just
barely
a, just a
liked the
theory.
Atreides.
Just a theory there. I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know how the Bene Gesserits if they have it all together because that
I
that
don't think
seems like
they
kind of
do. I guess we'll find
yeah.
out more about the. We'll find out more about it in the Dune prequel series.
Yeah, it's still supposed to come out this year, I believe.
Yeah, it comes out
And I
this
don't
year.
know. I heard someone talking. I don't know if Rebecca Ferguson's in it though. I think it
No,
might be a prequel.
it takes place 10,000 years before Dune. It is
Oh,
the
geez. Okay.
start of the prophecy, like how they come up with it.
Okay, tell me this. That's interesting. That is really interesting. Tell me this. You Messiah. How many years does Messiah take place after Dune? Do
12.
you know?
It's 12.
So here's what's interesting to me. 12 years. I wonder if they're going to change that at all because it's going to be so interesting. See, I think they hired Anya Taylor-Joy and Florence Pugh for the next movie, right? To prepare.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, their daughter,
It's not going to
Lady
be
Jessica's
12 if it's Anya
is
Taylor-Joy.
exactly. But then she also can't be the same age as Paul, which she is right now. So maybe Anya Taylor-Joy is not going to be in the third movie. Possibly. You know what I'm saying? They can't be
I
the same age. So
there's there's no reason that it needs to be 12 years. Like it could easily be 18 and Anya Taylor-Joy, because like Anya Taylor-Joy looks really young. So like they could update it to be 18 years, and Paul was probably what, 21? I don't know if they
yeah.
actually say how old he is, but Paul could look 40 and look like Timothy Chalamet with a little bit of makeup.
Yeah, I don't know what they're
Zendaya's
going to
not
do.
going
It's
to
going to be very.
age.
That's true. Yeah,
Florence
yeah, it's
Pugh's
going to be
already
really interesting.
played. Florence Pugh's already played like a 40-year-old woman, and maybe not actually, but like she's played older than what she actually is in plenty of
Yeah.
movies.
The other time thing that's very interesting is the fact of like how much time passed in the film
Yeah,
because obviously there are increments where time is passing and you get that from not only Chani and Paul's relationship but like his eyes changing colors and stuff like that. Um, is how is it still like 9 months, 10 months pregnant? Like,
yeah.
did this all happen in the span?
Is she 9 months
I don't know.
pregnant, or because I guess she's technically human. They call themselves human. So like I don't
Yeah, it's
know.
very interesting that she didn't have the baby at all. So I don't know. It will probably be out by Messiah. I would assume the
I would
child will be
hope. Well,
given. Yes,
I
yeah.
don't even know if she's in Messiah. From what I read, she's not mentioned, so I don't think that.
The daughter,
No, I'm talking about Lady Jessica.
Lady
I
Jessica.
mean, like the baby will definitely be out because it's Anya Taylor-Joy, and like she does play a role in Messiah. But
Interesting. I wonder if they're going to add Lady Jessica at all. Probably interesting. Something to think about.
I don't know if
Yeah,
she plays a
Messiah.
role in any of the other four books.
Yeah, like I would like to read. I'm not a very big reader, so I would like to maybe read by the
Well, Dune
time it comes.
Messiah is only 250 pages, which is like a huge difference from the 800-page Dune.
Yeah, I was actually at Target today and I saw a 3-pack. It was Dune and then Dune Messiah, and then they had the Children of Dune was the third one they had
Mhm.
connected to. So I'm curious who that's about.
Um, the Children of Dune are probably about Paul's kids.
Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah,
So yeah, we have Dune Messiah. We have Dune Messiah that is not going to be Denis Villeneuve's next movie.
yeah. He
He's going
said
to take
that
it.
something else is a much more pressing matter, and he has four
Yeah,
projects on his dock.
4.
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't say that like it's four projects before Dune Messiah, but he
Right.
said that he has four options right now, and one of them is a much more pressing matter that needs to come out.
I know he has a movie called I believe it's possibly called this called Rendezvous with Rama, which speaking of which, I don't think he used to not do sci-fi, right? We're going to talk about Ansandi and Prisoners and Sicario, all these movies. Enemy is kind of not really sci-fi, but he's like sticking to the genre. Like he's in and out. Except he possibly has Cleopatra that he might be doing.
Oh, that could
That
be good.
I don't know about that because people have been trying to do a Cleopatra movie for a long time.
Is Gal Gadot still tied to that?
If it's with him, no. Like I said, I don't think that he. Like I said, everyone's been trying to do Cleopatra,
Yeah.
so no one's done it yet. And I do know that I heard Gal Gadot's name one time, but I don't think it was connected with his Cleopatra film kind of thing. So we'll see what his next film is going to be. I'm bummed, and I think it's cool though because I did see that the script almost for Doom Messiah is done already.
Yeah.
And then Hans Zimmer has also almost already done the music. He's like starting it or done with the music for part 3 almost, or almost done with it.
Well, that's
Which is
good.
not part 3, but Messiah. But that's insane because it's funny because Hans Zimmer usually does music for Christopher Nolan films. Not solely, but a lot of the times. But he like hasn't done that in a couple years because he's been solely focused on Dune. Which his music is like when me and my wife we got done watching this movie, we kept doing that chant, the
Yeah.
we kept on doing that in the car back and forth. It was funny. But yeah. So, what did you think about his last French film, Incendie?
I I
What
really liked it.
what you want to give a recap of what it's about?
I don't think I can. Not
Okay,
as good as the
so
one you gave
Incendie.
me, which was very helpful when I then
Yeah,
watched the movie because I understood what was happening. It's just
Incendie
dark
was
and
made.
sad.
Yeah, it's a very sad movie. Incendie. It was made back in 2010. Like I said, it was nominated at the beginning. I said it was nominated for Best International Feature. It is about twins, uh, Simon and Jean, a boy and a girl. They're like 30 years old or something like that, and they get their mother passes away, and the notary gives them her will, and it says, "Hey, you need to deliver this envelope." The mother does not want to be buried properly. She kind of wants to be buried in a disrespectful way, as in face down towards the ground, no headstone, anything like that, until the children deliver an envelope to their father and to their brother. And they didn't know that their brother existed, and they didn't know their father was alive. And the son, the son, he doesn't really think that her mother's stability, mental stability, was in check. So he doesn't really believe the situation, but the daughter does. Jean does. So she goes to the Middle East. So they're in Canada, and she travels to the Middle East in order to discover her mother's life in order to find these long lost relatives. And in the process, you get flashbacks of her mother's life in the 1970s when the Lebanese Civil War was happening. And there's a lot of war that goes on. I think when we talk about this, we shouldn't give away the ending because I don't know
I
if
don't think we
anybody's
should give away
interested.
too much about the movie in general because it's our little
Yeah,
recommendation.
little bit of recommendation, yeah. Yeah, it is. I will say that it has one of the most memorable endings that you will ever see. Um, I sat by myself at a table and was really trying to process what I saw and how the story concluded. But yeah, what did you think of On Sunday?
I really liked it. I don't think I ever would have watched this movie had you not recommended it to me and like we picked it for the podcast. Um, it is hard to watch at times. It's and like I'm not usually one to like turn away from a movie or like turn away from gore. Not that this is like particularly gory, but just
Right.
like turn away from things that are
Warfare.
hard to watch. But like this movie has like a it's almost the same as like with Dune. It just has a way of like captivating you and like drawing you in. And
Yeah.
like showing you like really spending time building things up.
Yeah.
Um and there were times where I had to look away and then I texted you in the middle of the movie and was like, oh, this is sad.
Yeah, it's kind of there's two things that really draw you in my opinion. One is what you're saying is like, so this takes place, like I said, in the Lebanese Civil War, which is, if I understood it correctly, it's basically Christians versus Muslims,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very brutal when it comes to both sides. Muslims kill Christians, Christians kill Muslims, and it's not it doesn't shy away from violence at all when it comes to any age of the victims as well. But the thing that's I feel like also draws you in is the fact that it's a mystery. Not only the violence draws you in a weird way, like you remember scenes because of the violence,
Yeah.
which I mean, it's just this the story they wanted to tell kind of a thing. But also the mystery of the mother. And you really don't know what the mother's been through, and neither do the kids. So you're kind of discovering, along with the children, what their mother has been through. And I'll say this: I don't think this is a spoiler because this is the beginning of her life. But she had a child. She is a Christian who had a relationship with a Muslim, and her family found out, and they took away her child because of this. They killed her partner. They took away, or they she was pregnant, and she had the baby, and then they took away the child from her, and then the entire movie is her trying to track down this child that was taken away from her, and basically the circumstances that follow, and the horrendous things that she has put through in order to try to find her kid. But it's interesting because in this the span of her doing this, she's put in situations where her faith and her beliefs about politics and religion are tested. So
Yeah.
she changes throughout the movie as well, and so does her daughter. And it's a movie about like love because you have this mother finding her long lost child, but then the fact that I use the word domesticated. These her kids are very much not a part of the Middle East. They're not used to this. They're from Canada. They've grown up most of their lives. So then, even though the warfare isn't going on anymore, the kids go when they go back are trying to put the pieces together of their mother's lives, and they still put themselves kind of in scary situations, just to try to get some answers
Yeah.
however they can. So, very. I might be better than Doom Part Two, honestly, and that's insane for me to think about because they're two completely different movies. Um, I'm just really a big fan of emotion, and there's a lot of emotion in this
Yeah,
movie.
I would say that this movie is like way more emotional than Dune. And I think it's just
Yeah,
because like this is
very different
rooted in
subject matter.
reality. Like of
Yes,
course it's going to be easier to feel more emotion of something that like is clearly real and like based on true, like not that all of this is like true events, but like the
I was gonna say it's
history
based
of
on a
it.
play. It's
Yeah.
based on a play, I believe.
Yeah, but like the history of it is like true stuff. Like the the
And it's
Civil
still, I mean, it's still
War.
happening to this
Yeah.
day. And I think it's one thing that's another thing that I really like about the movie is the fact that people forget how recent war is. It's
Yeah.
like people, I don't know, people kind of sometimes say that about U.S. conflicts as well. But the fact that it's only a 30-year span, and the fact that her mother had to basically disguise herself when she went to these parts of the Middle East, but then her daughter is able to just do it freely.
Yeah.
But then the fact that these twins also didn't know this about their mother, even though they grew up with her.
Yeah.
So it's just very eye opening, especially to also, I think it talks about how people can kind of get caught up in the crossfire, as in people's lives are affected by war that shouldn't be, especially when it comes to her son, her long lost son, and what happens to him throughout the film. Um, and who he becomes. I think that's not necessarily all his fault, but the result of just his life and his upbringing, what happened, kind of thing. So don't want to speak too much because I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, it's emotional. It's a French film, so I think that's important. Like I said, it's his last French film, so it's in French. I was a little confused at the beginning because they're in the Middle East, but then I'm like, they're speaking French, right? I was like, do people
Yeah.
in the Middle East speak French? But then I lost. I don't think you see a scene of her flying to the Middle East, but I think you were supposed to just connect those dots.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of like there are a lot of people that end up speaking French. Like when
In the
she
Middle East.
yeah, in the Middle
Yeah, that
East.
is true.
It's just a little odd. I mean, I understand like the purpose of it.
If you are interested in this film, I believe it's on. You might have to purchase it, which is unfortunate, on VOD. I don't know if it's on any streaming services. I don't believe so. But yeah, just be emotionally ready. I went into this film blind, which was wild, and I'm jealous of Zach because I was able to tell him.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
glad I did not have to go into this blind.
yeah,
It
I was.
looks like it might be on. No, never mind. I was about to say it might be on Amazon Prime, but you can
Probably
rent
for
it on
purchase.
Amazon Prime for a dollar
Yeah,
74.
$1.74. That's actually not that
That's
bad.
not bad at all.
No. And then they're also kind of to the listener, if they care, there is. So Denis Villeneuve actually has three other films, French films before this. One is called Polytechnic, one is called Maelstrom, and then one is his first film, I believe, is called August 32nd on Earth. And if you go to Amazon Prime, there is a subscription service that you can sign up for that a week for free, and it's called Fandor. And that has all three of those films on it, which is
Oh,
kind of convenient.
that
Yeah,
is
all
very
three of them.
convenient.
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of cool.
If
I
only
don't
they
know if
were
it has.
sponsoring us.
Yeah, right. Fandor, yeah,
Not
sponsor us.
sponsored.
You can also, I guess, you can also sign up for a free trial for Mubi, and you can watch on
Yeah.
Sunday if you want. But yeah, good films. He really, I know you haven't watched all of his filmography. I would maybe Arrival's really good. I mean,
I know. I've heard really great things about it. It's just like it's so not even it's not even that old, but like it's so far in the past that I just forget to watch it.
I get that. I get that. What do you like more? Would you like grounded in like reality? Like, do you like Ansan D more, or do you like sci-fi more?
I'm not like crazy about sci-fi. Like I've been getting into it more in the last few years as like stuff like Dune has come out, but
Mhm.
I do love a good like based in reality an emotional tearjerker like
So,
on
have you watched
Sandy.
Prisoners?
I haven't watched Prisoners, but I will.
I'll say. So, I'll give you two films. So, you have either Sicario or
Hmm.
Prisoners. So, Sicario. Do you know what either of those are about?
Yeah, I think you told me about Sicario.
Yeah, Sicario is just about basically the war, kind of on superficially, it's like the war on drugs and on the
Hmm.
border and how stuff is handled. It's got Emily Blunt in it, Josh Brolin, and Benicio del Toro. But then
Hmm.
Prisoners, I feel like you would like Prisoners. So Prisoners has Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal, and basically Hugh Jackman's daughter goes missing and is taken away from him, and Jake Gyllenhaal is the detective on the case trying to figure it out, and Hugh Jackman's character thinks for sure it is a certain man, and they don't have evidence to prove it. So Hugh Jackman basically takes the law into his own hands and does things to that man to try to confess that he's guilty. But there's a possibility that the reason why he acts so suspicious is because he's just mentally not all there. And then you find out why that is and what happened to his kid, and Gyllenhaal becomes more connected with the case and stuff like that. Prisoners is a very good movie.
It
he,
sounds
he
really
he
familiar, actually.
yeah he I mean, you might have watched it. Yeah, it's only $3 to rent right now. It looks like it, but yeah, it came out in 2013. So
Okay.
yeah, that might be the one for you then. Yeah, Arrival is kind of grounded. It's very cool. It's about being a linguist.
Yes, I know. Like, it sounds like a really cool concept because she's a linguist and she like learns how to communicate with the aliens, right?
Right. Yeah. On the surface, it seems even to the the viewers in the movie or the people like in the movie, it seems like it's going to be in an alien invasion
Hmm.
because there's all these ships everywhere, and then you just slowly learn stuff about her, but then she learns stuff about them. So it's not too sci-fi. It really isn't. There is a concept throughout the film that is kind of sci-fi, but it just adds more detail to her character, and it's pretty easy to understand when you get to the twist of it all.
Yeah,
But yeah, try to watch Prisoners. I don't know.
I'll check out
If you want.
Prisoners. Maybe I
Yeah.
might have watched it forever ago because it does sound really familiar, and especially once you said Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. Um,
This is the scene. It's very there's a very iconic scene in this movie where Hugh Jackman has a hammer and he's yelling. It's Paul Dano. Are you familiar with Paul Dano?
yeah, the guy that
Yeah,
played Riddler in
yeah.
the new Batman.
He is the suspect
Okay,
who they think kidnapped the children. There's a very iconic scene where he's yelling, and Hugh Jackman is yelling at him, has a hammer, and says he's going to hit him with it, and he starts like hitting the sink over and over again, and like breaking the
okay, I
sink
have
down.
seen this scene. Yes.
Yeah, so that's what that's what that scene's from.
Okay, it might have been one of those movies that I watched on TikTok then.
That's good. I mean,
The
whatever you
like
can.
bunch of clips of movies on TikTok.
So Dune Part Two, what do you give it out of 5?
Out of five,
Yeah, like 4 out of 5, 3 out of 5. What are you
hmm,
thinking?
I like to give half points, so I'm gonna give it the 4.5 out of 5.
4.5. I was tempted to give it a 4.5. I think I'm going to lean towards 5, though. I think I am. There is some little nitpicks I have with it, but as in plot details. But I think you're just trying to, it's just don't
It's
pay
in the
attention to
book.
those. Yeah, it's in the book. Just
If you want to
feel
know
the
what we were
spice.
going for, read the book.
Exactly. So I will try to read the book. We'll see if that happens or not before Dune Messiah comes out.
I think you
But
have plenty of time.
yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it, though. I didn't know if you were going to because we decided to do this episode and you hadn't watched either of them.
Well, okay, so the reason that I waited so long to watch Dune was because I didn't want to wait 3 years for part two.
Okay.
Because like it was already like it had already been announced that Dune was going to be a two-part thing by the time
Okay.
part one was coming out.
Right, right.
And so I was like, well, I'm just not even going to watch it because it was also the pandemic and I wasn't going to go to a theater.
Oh yeah, that is true. It came out in 2021, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like coming out of that. Yeah, it didn't make that much money. It's actually making decent money at the box office, which is
The
cool
budget
because that
for Dune 2 was 190 and it's on track to earn 200 this opening
opening
weekend.
weekend. Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's exactly what it needs to
Yeah.
automatically get renewed for a
Yep.
third film. But I wasn't any doubts. Even the first one, even during the pandemic, it obviously didn't make as much, but it still made I think like 400 million worldwide,
Hmm.
which is still pretty impressive for when it comes to the pandemic movies and everything like that. But
And going straight to streaming same day because that
that
was
is
a
true. They went to Max. That's what they
mess.
did in 2021.
That was
Yeah.
a mess.
Uh, that's people were not happy about that. I think that's what stirred Christopher Nolan away from because he was originally a part of Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
That was
he
the
had an
10.
exclusive deal with Warner Bros. And it just happened to be up for renewal.
Yeah, and
And
then he
he
decided to
opted
go
not to.
Universal.
And Oppenheimer was his first movie away from Warner Bros. In like 20 something years.
Jeez. Well, luckily we'll get a third Dune.
Yeah.
Probably 99% sure we'll get a third Dune, which is great. We can talk about that movie in 10 years when it comes out.
I think it'll come out in maybe like 5 or 6.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll
Hopefully
see.
soon. He that is the thing about him. He busts out movies very quickly.
Yeah.
Um, like Prisoners, and he has another movie called Enemy. They came out in the same year. 2015. Let me think here. 2015, you had Sicario. 2016, you had Arrival. 2017, you had Blade Runner 2049. So he was coming out with like a film every single year.
Yeah.
And then I think
He
the pandemic happened, so it kind of screwed up some stuff. But
yeah, he puts in the work for sure.
yeah, he's a working man. Recommend both of these movies. He's a good director. Deserves the watches. Puts a lot of work into his films. It's just really nice to go to a movie that seems like it's worth your time, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Not a wasted moment. It was definitely worth watching, and it's it is a 5 hour investment, but it's almost 6 hours. It's almost a 6 hour investment, but it's worth the 6 hours for
Well,
sure.
yeah. I would. If anybody hasn't watched Dune Part One, I would just refresh your memory kind of before Dune Part Two. I
Yeah.
think it's really nice to watch them back to back. It adds a lot of substance to Dune Part One, which I think is kind of a little bit bare unless you watch them back to back.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the films for this week. What do the TV show we're talking about next week? You know
Next
what it was?
week we are talking about the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I'll have a recommendation for you on that one too. But yeah, tune in next week for our fresh takes on Avatar: The Last Airbender, and we'll see you next week.